Today we're getting under the hood with Dominique Debroux, a producer, an entrepreneur, and nutritional chef. Dominique has 25 years of experience in fashion, culminating in directing U.S. divisions of European companies. Along the way, she produced a full-length narrative film that was accepted to the Cannes Film Festival and the documentary 40 Weeks, coordinating the raising of the budget through sponsorship. Now in her postmenopausal years, she is focusing her lifelong passion for food therapy and nutrition and her film production in supporting women to live their fourth phase of life to its fullest. Her upcoming film, Wise Women, Humanity's Untold Origins, will be available soon. Welcome, Dominique.
Yeah. Actually, as you know, it is available now, but we can talk about that later.
Wonderful, wonderful. And if it's okay, it's season 4, Women's March for Mental Wellness. And if it's okay, I'd love to get going.
Absolutely.
Awesome. I love this question, Dominique. Everybody has inflection points in their life that get them onto some sort of journey. But this is about your mental health and wellness journey. What was your inflection point that made you aware and sort of brought you on this journey?
You know, my inflection point came early, but it didn't happen in one step. In my early 20s, when I was still at college, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, which was normally a simple fix, but unfortunately, had the laser therapy and the radiation, but it came back and it had mutated. And at that point, the therapies that they gave me were really life-changing and not things that I wanted to do. Basically, full hysterectomy, etc. And I found a different way and found a holistic doctor, which, remember, this was 40 years ago. When I first heard a holistic doctor, what the heck is that?
Wow.
And I was able to meld nutrition and herbology, supplements, and Western medicine, and went into remission, and I've been cancer-free since. You would think that would absolutely do it for me, but I was in my early 20s, felt invincible, so still didn't fully listen to myself. I did in many ways, researched, and whenever there was something going on for myself, emotionally or physically, I wouldn't just take the first answer for the thing. I would really kind of research. And then when I finally deemed myself ready to have a child, which is something I had always wanted to do, but I had put off because of career, because of childhood stuff, etc., I dealt with infertility. And even though on the inside I was saying what these fertility doctors is not it, it took me 5 years of 8 miscarriages, a lot of money spent on IUIs and IVFs to finally listen to myself. I found a fertility doctor that found something serious but simple to fix and had my daughter. And that was like the inflection point started in my 20s, and that's where it concretized. From then on, I realized, listen to the inner voice, to the instinct. And that took me through a bad bout of Lyme disease. And then when I went into perimenopause and menopause, which was kind of intense because I had been going through the Lymes, etc., I realized, I listened and knew that what I was getting in terms of therapies and suggestions from the medical community, and this was about 9 years ago, so there was a lot less, was not it. And I was complaining to my husband, I was looking, and between all of that and my husband's great storytelling mind, we ended up making a film that talks about the fact that menopause is actually an evolutionary adaptation, and that postmenopausal females are what helped our species become the humans, the Homo sapiens that we are.
Wow. There is so much to unpack here,
I know.
Dominique. I kind of, so thank you. I feel like, holy, wow, what inflection point. So
I
first of
know
all,
I just gave you a book. I'm
okay,
sorry.
that's okay. But let's actually shorten the book. Like, let's like go through
Sure.
it because I want to say, first of all, I'm just sitting here. I can't imagine being in my 20s and having cervical cancer. And so for you to say that you still felt you were invincible after that experience, I just want to applaud you and just say that's just amazing. And what a young woman, a powerful young woman. And to figure out also, I really appreciate the journey that got you into sort of a whole looking at your health holistically, even though you had something that was clinically really deep seated. So our instinct would be let the doctor fix it. And it wasn't working for you. So, and at such a young age for you to figure that out. Do you want to talk a little bit about where you were in your headspace during that time? Because clearly you would have had to have been very strong and persuasive to be able to take control of your health that way.
I didn't see myself that way at that time. And even now, when you say that, I'm looking behind me to see who you're talking to. But yes, I guess, yes, I was. When I was basically told that the therapies that they were suggesting, that first of all, they weren't sure whether they were going to work, and then they would take my fertility away, very likely. And I really did want to become a mom at some point in my life. I guess that's when I like, no. And that's where Providence or the universe, God, whatever you're connected to, came into being. I was working for the university call center, and our university had a medical school. And that night, when I had gotten the third doctor saying the same thing, they put me on calling medical alumni. I was just doing my job. And when I called one of the doctors, he said, no, take me off the list and you're supposed to get him talking. And that's when he said, the university taught me how to treat humans like cars. And I can't support that. And so I thought, well, are you still a doctor? Yes, I'm a holistic physician now. And that's the first time I had heard that. And that's where I said, can I talk to you about what's going on? And he said, yeah, come to my clinic, see my partner. She's actually more apt to help you. And that's how I found it. So I guess what I would say is I just kept going. Instead of shutting down and just going back to my dorm room and like curling up, I just kept going. And when something came up, I trusted because I could have kept going for rote and just said, yeah, thank you very much, and gone to the next call. But I realized I was being given something and I took advantage of it.
That's really amazing, actually, how, to your point, the
Right?
universe,
Yeah.
that sort of dropped into your field. And also, I just think the courage at such a young age, not surprising, but maybe in those days, surprising to go a holistic route, but to trust and to have it happen during your university years and just to your point, to keep going. So I just want to take a minute and pause and really applaud what you did and how you came out of it, and also recognizing, no, I don't want a hysterectomy. I want to have a child. So like to know that in your 20s, I just, I'm trying to put my empathy hat on and say, well, what would I have done? Because I just sort of did things without thinking about it. And I guess when you're dealt with something like that, it stops you in your tracks and it forces you to think or experience it in a different kind of way, right?
Yeah, I actually think that most women, if they look back, they'll notice that they did a lot of things because they had an instinctual understanding of what they wanted and who they were. And so they just kept going against parental, societal, whatever it is that we're telling them to do something different. So even in little ways, we kept doing that. And yes, so I guess I had a big test in my 20s where I could have folded up, but no.
And it's interesting because what we haven't touched on was really the language around mental health and wellness. Clearly, there was a resilience in your core that allowed you to deal with something that was like just a tremendous challenge.
I actually remember back at 16, so you're going through puberty, things are hell. High school sucks. Sorry, but it just does. And I had a bunch of family stuff. Now understanding, I basically went into a depression. And I even asked my parents if I could see a therapist, and that was just a no-no. That, for them, and again, 40 years ago, only people who see therapists are people who are deemed crazy. And I actually thought of, do I want to be here in this, on this earth, in this life? And finally, through some hardship and, stupid stuff that I did, I realized, yes, I do. And so if I'm going to be here, I'm just going to try to do my best to be me and the full recognition of me.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And I think at that, in particular, at that age, Dominique, I like when I hear you say that, do I want to be here? I question the same thing. So I wonder how many women would raise their
Yeah.
hands and say, do I want to be here? Because I think that stage of puberty, the social dynamics, even back then, not quite as bad as they are today, but still bad nevertheless. We still had to experience all the feelings and everything that our body went through. So I see you and really acknowledge that. I now want to move forward because I think, your journey for fertility. So you get through, you're cancer free, you're going through this and you decide you want to have a family. Talk about that and share how, again, you look to, your mental health, your wellness to get you through this.
I look back at that time and it was really an example of how your truth keeps knocking at you. I think you're going to be a lot happier and your mental health is going to be a lot better when you listen. Because I was 36 when I started the journey. And so I just assumed, yeah, I'm going to go to a fertility specialist, after whatever that 6 months of or a year of trying, because I'm just supposed to. I'm an older woman, so etc. And when things were happening where I kept getting the hint on the inside or the voice saying, what they're telling me isn't right. And they kept telling me it's basically just old eggs. And that's why I was losing the pregnancies. And I ended up finding a different fertility specialist who, through working with an acupuncturist, had realized something basically pretty simple. In our bodies, we have natural killer cells. They're like the special forces of the immune system. And they usually go after overgrowths and parasites. And your body sees a pregnancy as a parasite at the beginning. All women who go through, or most, I would say, fertility issues get tested for their natural killer cells. And if they're high, that's dealt with first. Mine were perfectly normal. This doctor had found that for some women, they get pregnant and they spike. So I was getting pregnant fine, but my body was killing off my pregnancies for something that the regular fertility world wasn't looking at. And I found this guy from the owner of a restaurant who had become a friend where Chris and I went almost every weekend. So she was there. Had I talked to her anywhere along those 5 years, right? Especially when the message was in my head that the old egg thing, not true. It took me until I was basically given the donor egg or adoption. Those were my choices. And finally, I went there in the middle of the week just to break down into my tea. It's a English tea house, right? And I just wanted tea and scones and cry. And she just sat down with me and said, what's going on? And she said, I know this doctor. And boom.
That's amazing. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking about, Dominique, is the fact that you shared your story. It took you a long time to share your story. And I think that's the message here that, the through line that I'm hearing thus far is listening to your gut, listening to your instinct. It doesn't feel right. Question it, advocate for yourself, share that story because it's going to connect you with the next woman, the next person who may be able to help a situation. And
Exactly. Because the other piece of it is community. When women come together and we share and we hold each other, miracles happen.
I couldn't agree. That's what we're all about it under the sisterhood. It's about bringing women into community. And even though we do these one-on-one story sharing, it's really an opportunity when Dominique shares her story with the next woman. It could be a younger woman, an older woman who might be experienced postmenopause or, fertility. They will start asking those questions. They will start advocating. They will hear your story and be inspired to not get stuck, because easily, to your point of when you were back in college, you could have rolled up in a ball and not gotten out of bed and not dealt, and you dealt and you went on. To hear that, to keep going, how did you manage to stay well mentally, to keep you going, to want to keep trying?
Community and being bullheaded. It's really hard for me to give up on something I really want. And I have a wonderful partner in my husband, Chris, and I had great friends. So when I went into pity parties and, just like, I can't do this anymore, they were there to either hold me or shake me, out of it.
I love that. I love that. And that's community is such a special thing. So I want to move on because I think these inflection moments have really, yes, they've probably defined you. They've had you, helped you dig really deep into who you are. But you've accomplished so much over the years, separate of being through these life experiences. Let's talk about that. I mean, I know that you are a producer, you're a nutritional chef. Why don't you take us on a journey and share some of what you've done and what you're doing?
Sure. So I spent the first 25 years of my professional life in the fashion world, with some breaks in between where I went into the creative world and produced. I even took acting classes and did a bit of that, which I didn't like. I love the classes, but not the work. Fashion for me was a way to make a living that was still creative and artistic. And for a good long time, I was able to kind of put away the things that fashion is actually really bad for women. Because one thing, in order to sell more and more fashion, it's a constant telling women they're not enough. They need this new collection, this new bag, these new shoes. And that's unfortunate because the art of fashion is phenomenal, right? When you're selling that wearable art, that makes you happy. And it was at the time that I was going through the Lyme's disease, and we were producing 40 Weeks, which was my husband's first solo documentary. I realized, first of all, I was getting to be in my late 40s, 50, etc. And I was seeing the ageism in fashion, which is ridiculous because it's actually women who are 45 to 65 who really give most of their money to the fashion world. And it was just driving me crazy. And I, once again, from learning that, I like, what are my insides? What is my true self telling me? And the thing that I have always loved is food. And the nutritional side of food, making it super delicious. And so I just kind of looked at that as a possibility of a career while I was doing 40 Weeks. And that's where I shifted. I shifted from a business where you can't talk about food, can't talk about eating, to all about food. And I have two food brands. Anna Maria's Foods, which I named after my mom, which is all Piemontese recipes. So I come from Piemonte, Italy. I immigrated here when I was 9. And there's these great dips, which are like the Italian salsa. And then we've got jams and sauces. And then most recently, and what I'm really excited about, is I'm co-founder of a company called Outro Food, which makes pea protein mixes that you can make into anything, into a burger, into veggie balls, into a loaf, into a cutlet. There's a couple of different minces. There's an egg. So it's all plant-based. And you can dupe your favorite meat or egg dishes with these products and go into a plant-based diet, because Now, in my postmenopausal years, I feel much better when I eat much more plant-based, but I'm a lifelong omnivore, and there's meat dishes that are my comfort foods. And if you don't take care of that comfort feeling, it's really hard to keep a healthy lifestyle. So now I can make myself cutlets piccata, I can make myself bolognese, all of that, lasagna with quote meat sauce, all plant-based. And I'm a lot happier.
That's fantastic. And I love what you said, Dominique, about going from fashion where you couldn't even touch food to
Yeah.
becoming a food. I mean, I think it's a very interesting transition. And I also like the way you describe fashion as wearable art versus how it makes women feel the need that they're never enough. They need to keep getting the next, what's next, what's next, what's next, how do I show
Yes.
up? And so I think that that's a really good thing to sit with and think about. And again, I just have to applaud you for knowing and sitting with and making that decision while you're producing 40 weeks to go in and let me start this food brand. I mean, that takes a lot of courage. I'm just kind of curious, how long did that take for you to, like, once you recognize that, to do the food work?
It was probably a couple of years recognizing I was unhappy over here and where the next step would be. And then it was a solid 3 or 4 years of learning the ropes. Because it's just very different food businesses. And I'm still working on growing both food brands. Chris just asked me a question this morning. I have lately made a complete change in how I eat breakfast. So it's been maybe 6 months where I still wake up kind of nauseous, not really hungry. But I saw so much research, and from one particular doctor, Dr. Stacy Sims, that having a really solid big breakfast, which we've always been told that, right? Big breakfast, kind of medium lunch and less dinner is the way that we really ought to eat. But especially for women, to get up and have a solid breakfast with lots of protein. And I changed that just 6 months ago, and it has been complete change in my energy. And part of it is getting away from the thought that we've been given our entire lives as women: eat less, be smaller, be slim. You know, don't think about food. And no, it's actually eat solid amounts so that your body has enough to build the health that you're looking for, the muscles that you're looking for, to take care of all of your organs and all of that. Just to let you know that as a nutritional person that's been studying this most of her life, and as a nutritional chef, I still had to realize something 6 months ago, make a change, and it has changed so much for me.
It's so funny because I wake up and I'm not hungry either. And then I have my coffee and I'm really not hungry, but I always have a hard-boiled egg to take my vitamins with. I start just to get some protein in me and something to take my vitamins with, but I don't have appetite like to make it. So it's so interesting. I mean, I'm working from home now, so I have the capacity to do it, but not the desire. I have tremendous amounts of energy. So I don't know if, because I eat fairly healthy, mostly plant-based as well, a little bit of a little bit of fish, but I really appreciate that. I'm kind of curious as we talk about that, because you're a nutritional chef, what other things would you share in terms of the wellness side of things? Because I think, nutrition, wellness sort of align.
Yeah, absolutely. Not aligned, they're one and the same. Yep. Well, it's interesting because what you just shared. See, you eat the hard-boiled egg. So you're having protein, some fat. I'm assuming you're probably having a little bit of carbs with your milk. So you are at least fueling your body right in the morning. There's a lot of women who don't. Now, for each one of us, it's different. And that's also very important. We are not one body. We are not meant to all look alike. And so some women are curvier, some women are linear. There's so many different body types. And it's just about, how are you feeling? If you're low energy, there's something to look at. If you've got pain, there's something to look at. If you're not sleeping well, there's something to look at. But if you're feeling great the way that you're eating, then good, right? It's when you're not feeling well, there's something to look at. And it's not going to be the same for you as it is for everyone else. And when I work with people, that's really it. My first work is to ask them lots and lots of questions. And remember that what works for me is not going to be the same thing for them.
There's nothing better, to your point. Nutrition and wellness are one and the same.
Yes.
So I'm curious, Dominique, how would you say you march for mental wellness? I mean, you've done so much and you've experienced so much in your life, but how today are you marching for mental wellness? And you can talk about it, by the way, both personally and professionally.
For me, it's one and the same, because I've put together my life experience with what I've gone through and with activism, because I'm really not okay with how women are seen, portrayed, what we're told to be, even throughout our lives, but especially as we age and we go into menopause and become postmenopausal. We're basically given the message by society, the media, even other women who have been taught that's what it is, that we should back up now. And we're not quite as necessary, good to be grandmothers, maybe some mentorship, but mostly back up. And that's not okay. And that's what was happening for me when I went into perimenopause and menopause. The challenge that here I was wanting to research to feel the best, but I didn't have any motivation to feel the best. Because what are you going to feel the best just to finish, right? If you're at the end of your life, I'll just eat cake all day because who cares? So in that emotional, I think that's what was most difficult to my mental health. That emotional sense that I was done and I did not feel done. That's the point. If you feel done and you're like, you know what, I'm going to spend the rest of my life, whatever it is that you love to do, playing golf, painting, whatever, fine, good. I did not feel that. I still had so much to do, to offer, etc. And that's where Chris was not just really helpful, but he was helpful because he was interviewing doctors at the time and menopause doctors for another project. And so he just started asking questions. And one doctor said to him, well, we have to treat menopause to fix nature's mistake. And if you give Chris something that does not make sense, he cannot stop until it makes sense. And that's what sent down research, and it helped motivate me to research because it just was so angering. And so that's where 6 or 7 hard years of work on this movie, creating Wise Women, Humanity's Untold Origins. And we realized that no, it is not nature's mistake. It is actually an evolutionary adaptation that happened long ago, that it helped us become the Homo sapiens that we are. And that postmenopausal women are necessary for social organization to keep our society going. And right now, we're not really paying attention to that. So that's what I'm doing in life. That's what motivates me, to get women to realize, you know what you're feeling inside, that you are not done and that you're not over and that you're needed and necessary and important. It's all correct. Keep going.
Well, I applaud that. And it so resonates with me. I haven't felt done, but I feel like to your point, if we go back and we're to have a conversation with you and Chris and talk about the patriarchy and the systems that are in place that make us feel this way. You talked about fashion, reaching 45, 50 and being, suddenly deemed non-essential, if you will. Same thing in advertising. I had the same experience. I didn't succumb to it, but I decided in my mid 50s or early mid 50s that, I was kind of done. I wanted to do something different. I was bold. Who the heck knows where I got that? But my point in sharing that was understanding, and hence under the sisterhood coming to life to really give voice to women and all of our universal and also individual experiences, because we are all different, but we also carry a lot of universal commonalities. And I think that the work you're doing, the Wise Women, this movie is really, really powerful and very important. It needs to be seen and watched by, everybody, because it helps you understand life stages, transitions, the power of women at every stage. And the fact that while, it's interesting because we just had an Under the Hood of Menopause event, and one of the physician was talking about grieving being in perimenopause and grieving this new transition phase, because with it comes, of course, all these symptoms, all this change, if you will. I used to call it the change, by the way. And the thing I think that's interesting as it correlates to Wise Women is that instead of grieving, owning it, it's not the end, it's a new beginning, and it's about evolution. And it's, even if you just think of evolution as a metaphor, we are evolving. We have these lived experiences. We are, the point of your title, we are wise women, and
Yeah.
we are necessary. And I think that, and essential to society. And so
Yeah.
I think very powerful. I'm very excited for you guys. Can you just let everybody know where that's available, just by the way?
It's available to rent on bingeable.net, but you're going to have a link that you can give to people so that they can rent it through Under the Sisterhood and help Under the Sisterhood as well.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And this is not a close, but I just wanted to, while we're talking about wise women. So, Dominique, I have to say, just hearing your story and the journey you've been on, and it's interesting because while you were going through all the physical challenges, you still showed up as a working woman, in college, and a working woman, then becoming a mother, doing all these things as we were experiencing all these physical things and, of course, emotional and mental things. So kudos to you for having this resilience. I mean, to talk about that a little as we close. I do have one more question, but I think it's important because we've been on this journey with you. And I think, women should know that we aren't one thing. We're so many different labels, or take the labels away, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, when you talk about me like that, it paints such a beautiful, settled, and steady picture. Not at all. If you had lived my life with me, there were moments where, my daughter had to walk into the other room. My husband had to leave the house for a moment. Friends were like, what the heck is going on with you? So know that along the way, you can have ups and downs, and you can have the pity party, have the rage, have the this and all of that. But I think it's the ongoing perspective. That decision that I made when I was 16, that I want to be here, was just a constant perspective of, okay, I want to be here. So let's turn it around from how I'm thinking about this, be it the infertility, be it the Lyme's disease going neurological, be it menopause going nuts. What's the perspective that's going to help me get through this and build from it? Like, one of the things that really helped me is, while I was going into the worst part of perimenopause and then full menopause, my daughter was going through puberty. And I think we all forget how hard puberty was. But I was able to see both of us at the same time, and remembering that, oh man, it was really hard for me too, but I was heading into something that I was excited. So I realized how the difference in perspective made it so much easier for her to deal with her symptoms and to find solutions. So in then working on the film and realizing, oh, I am supposed to be here. And it is my wise woman leadership phase, and I am necessary. Change my perspective. And all of a sudden, it didn't take away my symptoms, but it gave me, okay, there's a reason why I'm going through this. Let's figure out why, and let's figure out how I can take care of myself the best.
I
So,
love that.
perspective.
I love perspective. I love the steadiness and the discipline, but also the resilience. Because the truth is, Dominique, you did not have, nobody has a linear life. But again, to go back to the early part of what you experienced in college with cervical cancer, getting beyond that, fertility, getting beyond that. And by the way, we didn't even talk about Lyme's. We don't need to go into that, but that can be very complicated if not
Yeah.
treated immediately. So then add on menopause, add on all the other different things that happen organically at each life stage. It's really very impressive that I
Thank
just
you.
love it. And I love the turn on the wise woman and really owning the leadership and the power in that. So, Dominique, as we close out this conversation, which has been just very enriching for me, I hope so for you, this is your platform today to give women of all ages, of all backgrounds, of all cultures a message. What do you want to leave them with?
Listen to yourself. And this is so much easier said than done because, be it our daily worries, what you're hit with in society or in your private life, things that happen, you've got a lot of voices, right? So I suggest find a way to meditate often. And I don't mean you have to sit there in some sort of yogic stance. If taking a walk is meditative for you, if baking is meditative for you, if, knitting, something that frees your mind and to listen. And when the bad thoughts come, say, thank you, I hear you, but you're not necessary right now. And just keep breathing through them. It's not about blocking. Breathe through, and eventually that leaves the space to hear your inner voice and then follow it. That's what I would say.
I love that. I love that. I just love it's such deep listening, and you're like touching me on so many levels. But I meditate twice a day, and it's so powerful. It's so calming, and it does give you distance from things. It actually meditation metaphorically breathes you through life. Do you know what I'm
Yes,
saying? And so I think it's
totally.
really beautiful.
Totally. And I have a total ADHD brain. So sometimes I can sit in meditation. Sometimes I need to go on a walk. Or when it's really bad, I got to go to nature and do a hike. You know what I mean? And not a hard one, but just I need woods.
I love that. That's awesome. And yes, there's all different types of meditation to support. I think if everybody could do it, I've been working on my family. Everybody's kind of doing it now, the kids, and
Yeah.
it's just really, really helpful. But Dominique, I just want to say thank you so much for getting under the hood with me today and for sharing your incredible story. You are my hero.
Oh my gosh, Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you for asking these questions and bringing these stories to not just women, to people. We can learn from each other.
Yes, we can. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Matt Butler, and edited by Matt Butler. The music is by Ayla Schaefer, her song Rose.